And for more on the EU Foreign Ministers meeting, I'm joined by Jacob Kirkegaard. He's a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
First, your reaction to this plan for Libya. Do you think we'll realistically see a unified government anytime soon?
Well, I think it's beyond a piece of paper. I think the short answer is no. I don't think the EU has brought anything to the table that suggests that they're going to basically coerce these armed malicious rivals, regional rivals in the east and the western part of Libya into forming any kind of coherent government. And I think the reality is that what everyone is afraid of is you're going to have an increasingly, in this vacuum or civil war, an expansionary presence of ISIS, which you already have in parts of Libya today. But I think the reality is that, as far as I see it, is too little and it's too late.
Another major issue, the refugee crisis, has been going on for months. It's a topic of discussion there. After months, though, there has yet to be any sort of progress. What is your take, and you heard it in Jack's report, on the concern of jihadists moving among refugees?
Well, there's no doubt, I mean, that this is a major concern in all European capitals. Of course, right now, France probably more than anybody else, but no European government can basically allow to have the perception among their own electorates of that nobody is in control of the borders, that it's sort of a free-for-all, and that people can move in with, impunity because of the obvious, as we saw in Paris, security implications of that.
So, that being said, the EU just basically gave Turkey several $1 billion to help secure its borders, to help the refugees it has in its camps. We heard Jack also say something about a crackdown. They want to crack down. Do you think that we could see Turkey bidding for to be part of the EU again?
I think that's a very long-term and very distant goal. And I have to be perfectly honest, I don't think Turkey will ever be a full-blown member of the EU. But that doesn't mean that a prolonged process of negotiation wouldn't benefit both the EU and Turkey, because perhaps Turkey will be, compelled to do a lot of domestic reforms as trying to become a member, which would benefit Turkey, even if they actually never became fully included in the club. But at the same time, I think the clock on this issue is ticking very rapidly. And I think we've now had a couple of weeks go by since the last EU-Turkey summit, where, as you said, Turkey was offered a significant financial incentive for cracking down on refugees. But I think the reality is that unless this crackdown, seen from the perspective of European government, a significant reduction in the number of inflows of migrants from Turkey, unless that starts to really materialize in a significantly reduced number of refugees, which we really haven't seen yet, I think patience in Europe will be tested very rapidly, and the actual fate of these promised payments, I think, will be somewhat up in the air.
Well, do you think that amount of money will make a difference? Or will we see it sort of disappear?
No, I mean, I think with respect to Turkey spending all the $3 billion on doing exactly what the EU wants, no, it probably will not make a difference. But this is fundamentally a bribe, if you like. It's basically the European Union's attempt at getting the Turkish government to do something which they otherwise wouldn't have done. So it's a part of a broader re-engagement with Turkey that they hope will yield the results that they're looking for. Because we should always keep in mind here that this is a process initiated by the EU. They have an urgent problem in the refugee crisis, and they need Turkey's help. And they've been trying to get Turkish help in dealing with it. And as I said, so far we have a process, but we don't really have that many results on the ground.
We've seen throughout the last week or two the continuing tit-for-tat between Russia and Turkey. How do you see the tensions between these two countries playing out?
I think that must be a major cause for concern, because I think it won't take much for another, quite frankly, accident to happen. Maybe Turkey opens fire at another Russian jet. I mean, we saw a Russian ship firing on a Turkish ship. And these are two leaders that are, quite frankly, both pretty autocratic. They will not be backing down, in my opinion. So you have a tit for tat that could very quickly escalate. And that is beyond what is already a significant economic impact, as Russia has now sanctioned Turkish exports to the country. We have the secession of the stopping of the Russian nuclear power plant being built in Turkey. There are concerns about long-term energy contracts and these types of things. So this is really a bilateral relationship. And of course, Turkey being a NATO member adds an additional complication. But this is one, I think, to watch and frankly be very concerned about.